On December 17th, a series of absurd and piercing acts of protest erupted simultaneously across multiple regions in China. In Baoshan District, Shanghai, thousands of investors surrounded the local public security bureau, shouting, "Release him!" to rescue Wu Fengqin, the mastermind of a multi-billion yuan scam, simply because money in the hands of a fraudster still offers a glimmer of hope, while once it enters police custody, it is believed to be lost forever. In a park in Shanghai, hundreds of petitioners shouted, "Down with the Communist Party," and "Freedom belongs to the people." In Beijing's Jingshan Park, victims of injustice rushed to the tomb of Emperor Chongzhen, wailing and begging the dead for help. Why would victims defend a fraudster? Why do elderly citizens risk everything shouting, "Down with the CCP"? Why would desperate people plead with the dead? What do these absurd scenes ultimately signal? When the rule of law collapses, all avenues of appeal are blocked, and the regime's stability maintenance machine suffocates everything. Desperate Chinese citizens express their fury in the most extreme ways. The old order is standing on the edge of collapse. On the morning of December 17th, in front of the Economic Investigation Division of the Baoshan branch of the Shanghai Public Security Bureau at 516 Titong Road, Baoshan District, Shanghai, thousands of agitated investors gathered, blocking the entire area. This was a large-scale rights defense action following the collapse of the Axingay investment platform. Yet their demands were bizarre and ironic. Instead of calling for strict punishment for the mastermind, the protesters shouted, "Release him," while holding signs that read, "Give us back our chairman, let the company resume operations." Many held joint signature letters stamped with red fingerprints, forcefully demanding police release the recently detained chairman of Xie Group, Wu Fengqin. The protest continued into late night, with many refusing to leave. The incident originated from the collapse of the Axingay platform. The platform belonged to Shanghai Shai Health Technology Group Company, Limited, later relocated to Anhui, controlled by Wu Fenghen. Starting in 2023, the platform promoted various apps, Axinghay, Axing Preferred, and Mutual Aid Auction Mall, using buzzwords like digital economy and rural revitalization, promising absurdly high returns. Daily interest rates of 1% to 1.27%, with annualized returns of 365% to 466%. These claims attracted massive investment from elderly citizens. The total amount involved reportedly reached tens of billions of yuan. In November 2025, the platform abruptly collapsed, withdrawals were frozen, and investors lost everything. In the early days following the collapse, investors in Zhejiang, Shanghai, and other regions staged protests, demanding repayment and calling for the authorities to severely punish the fraudster Wu Fengqin. However, after Wu and others were taken into custody by Baoshan police in December for suspected illegal fundraising, the investors abruptly reversed their position, launching a campaign to rescue the chairman, even calling him the benevolent chairman. This reversal does not reflect genuine belief in Wu's innocence or benevolence, but arises from deep despair toward the police and judicial system. Multiple investors explained, when the money remains with Wu, there remains a faint possibility of partial recovery. But once the funds enter official custody, based on numerous past cases, Zhongji, Dingyifeng, Yongbei, Shupai, funds frozen by the authorities are often effectively confiscated, sometimes even allegedly held long-term by police departments. This reveals the complete distrust victims now hold toward China's legal restitution mechanisms in such illegal fundraising cases, leaving them with no option but to gamble on private negotiation. This bizarre spectacle of victims rescuing the fraudster reflects the collapse of public trust in the rule of law under CCP governance. Citizens now prefer to negotiate with criminals rather than trust the authorities supposedly tasked with upholding justice. On December 18th, Baoshan police issued a notice confirming that they had opened a criminal investigation into Anhui Xie Health Technology Company and imposed criminal measures against Wu Fengqin and several others. The case remains under investigation. Beyond exposing the Ponzi scheme nature of the investment platform, the event also highlights the absurdity and helplessness of financial rights defense in China today, becoming one of the most ironically symbolic societal events at the end of 2025. Three major social events in China in 2025: despair and resistance in darkness. As 2025 draws to a close, Chinese society has been engulfed by overlapping layers of darkness. School tragedies at the start of the year, waves of anger over bullying in the summer, and year-end financial absurdities and medical scandals. Ordinary people repeatedly took to the streets, only to face violent suppression and truth being buried. Civil appeals were silenced, and victims were even forced to bow to their abusers. These events are not isolated. They represent the concentrated eruption of institutional evil. Stability maintenance overrides justice, profit chains override people's livelihoods, and lies override truth. In this land, those who dare to stand up and refuse silence are heroes. A series of school bloodshed. Public fury twice, igniting the stability machine. The year opened with tragedy. On January 2nd, a third-year student, Dang Mo, fell from the dormitory balcony at Pucheng County Vocational Education Center in Shanxi Province. The school refused the family's request to view surveillance footage, claiming the cameras were broken and the victim's uncle was taken away by police. The family suspected bullying and a cover-up. Their videos calling for help went viral online. On January 5th, large crowds spontaneously gathered at the school to support the family, but live streams were quickly blocked. Authorities deployed heavy police forces. Videos showed officers choking and beating civilians. At midnight on January 5th, the local investigation team announced that criminal activity had been ruled out, concluding it was a fatal fall. The next day, nearly 1,000 people gathered again. The police crackdown resulted in injuries and scenes of chaos, with protesters storming school facilities. A similar tragedy repeated in midsummer. On July 22nd, in an empty building in Jiangyu, Sichuan Province, several teenage girls violently bullied a 14-year-old girl named Lai, verbal abuse, slapping, kicking, and forcing her to undress, while recording the entire ordeal. When the victim threatened to call the police, the bullies responded, "As if we've never been arrested before? Do you think we're afraid? We'll be out in less than 20 minutes." On August 2nd, the video surfaced online, triggering nationwide outrage. The victim's parents, one deaf-mute mother and a disabled father, sought justice. Police imposed minimal punishment. 2 bullies sent to a special correction school, 1 given criticism and education. Public dissatisfaction exploded. On August 4th, large crowds assembled outside the Jiangyu municipal government chanting, "If they cannot speak, we will speak for them." The authorities responded with violent suppression. Videos showed police beating civilians and making arrests, while online footage was rapidly scrubbed. The protests in Pucheng and Jiangyu, though suppressed, revealed a rising collective resistance to systemic injustice. When one mother cannot speak, 10,000 mothers will speak for her. Such tragedies are frequent. The 2023 Ningling Middle School incident, the 2022 Hu Jinyu case in Jiangxi, the 2021 Chengdu No. 49 Middle School case, the 2017 Luzhou Taifu Middle School case. Schools, once considered sanctuaries, have become sites of bloodshed and darkness. 2. Telecom fraud rampant. The public's Bring the Stars Home campaign is silenced. On January 3rd, actor Wang Xing was trafficked to Myanmar's Mayawati telecom fraud compound. His girlfriend sought help on social media, receiving widespread support from other celebrities. With rising public attention, Chinese consular officials and Thai police intervened, and Wang was located on January 7th and returned to China on January 11th. After Wang Xing's case became widely reported, many families of telecom fraud victims appealed online. A Weibo user launched the Bring the Stars Home project, compiling information on missing persons trapped in Myanmar. By January 9th, the document was publicly shared, and by January 11th, it listed over 1,500 victims, mostly young men, including students, veterans, and engineers, missing across several years. Many families had reported the cases to police, only to be told not eligible for filing. The document quickly became inaccessible. Commentator Wang, he noted, although Wang Xing was rescued, there are tens of millions of telecom fraud victims in China. This is not an isolated case, but a societal cancer. Under real-name mobile regulations, how can Myanmar fraud syndicates still smuggle SIM cards and register virtual numbers? Under advanced grid management, why can't the government provide accurate statistics on the victims? How long is the fraud interest chain, and who is involved? Why was the Bring the Stars Home initiative silenced? The implications are terrifying. Civilian spontaneous appeals are swiftly censored, revealing the authorities' deep fear of truth. 3. The Zhangya Second Hospital organ scandal. Luo Shuaiyu's death ignites public outcry. In May 2024, Luo Shuaiyu, a medical intern at Xiangya Second Hospital of Central South University, fell to his death from a dormitory building. Luo was a master's student researching kidney transplantation, and he had reportedly refused the hospital's request to help identify 12 children aged 3 to 9 to serve as organ donors. His parents discovered 158 audio recordings and 11,119 pages of documents on his computer, providing extensive evidence of an illegal organ trafficking network. They published the materials online, suspecting their son was murdered. Their attempts at seeking justice were repeatedly suppressed. On June 13th, Hunan authorities announced that criminal involvement had been ruled out, insisting he fell alone. The announcement trended online, drawing massive scrutiny of the hospital and China's broader transplant system. On September 3rd, a Reuters microphone unexpectedly captured a private exchange between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin before a Beijing military parade. Putin's translator said in Chinese, "Biological technology continues to advance. Human organ transplantation will keep expanding. People may live increasingly longer, even achieve immortality." Xi responded, "Some predict that later this century, humans may live to 150 years old." Because the footage was simultaneously broadcast by CCTV and Reuters, it spread instantly and triggered global uproar. On September 22nd, the World Organization to Investigate the Persecution of Falun Gong published a report, China's Military Hospitals and the Shocking Scandal of Infant Organ Harvesting. It alleged that, in pursuit of longevity technologies for senior CCP officials living to 150, Chinese military hospitals began experimenting over a decade ago with harvesting organs from infants. The report cites breakthroughs in recent years enabling large-scale implementation. It claims that infant kidney transplant technology has matured, with some donor infants produced via artificial insemination of captive women. Investigators describe this as one of the most evil medical crimes in human history. In fact, in 2017, Sun Yat-sen University First Hospital revealed that 90% of pediatric kidney donors were allocated to adult patients. In 2023, doctors at Shanghai Jiao Tong University's Renji Hospital published a study in the American Journal of Transplantation, documenting two newborn infants whose kidneys were removed on the second and third days after birth and transplanted into adult female patients aged 34 and 25. Since July 1999, when the CCP began persecuting Falun Gong, industrialized forced organ harvesting from practitioners rapidly expanded. Rising organ demand extended victims beyond Falun Gong practitioners to Uyghurs, students, homeless people, and ordinary civilians. The CCP built a massive database that enables on-demand organ supply and precision targeting of victims. In today's China, anyone can become a sacrifice. Chinese citizens must awaken. They must draw a line between themselves and the CCP for their own survival and dignity. From tears at Jingshan to shouts in the park, a society at the breaking point. When the law becomes a tool of plunder and truth is buried behind broken surveillance cameras, desperate Chinese citizens turn to the oldest and most sorrowful forms of appeal. In Beijing's Jingshan Park, beneath the crooked tree where the last Ming emperor hanged himself, and before Chongzhen's tomb, this year saw moving scenes. Oppressed citizens with no recourse came to cry out in grief. This was not nostalgia for monarchy, but a transhistorical accusation. Some visitors remarked that standing before Chongzhen's tomb felt like witnessing the final gaze of the Han Chinese dynasty, a moment of tragic closure. 3 or 4 centuries have passed, the scenery unchanged, but the suffering of ordinary people remains constant. Those who whispered life is too hard were not only mourning the dead, they were mourning their own shattered lives. This act of seeking help from the dead is a continuation of the political symbolism that followed the CCP's sealing of the Crying Wall at the Kaifeng Prefecture Temple of Baozheng. In a society locked down by high-tech surveillance, public resentment has risen above ground, transforming into a profound curse upon the present regime. That curse manifested violently on December 17th in Shanghai, the same day thousands surrounded the Public Security Bureau. In a park behind the Shanghai Petition Office, hundreds of petitioners no longer settled for submitting appeals that would never receive a reply. Facing dozens of heavily armed aggressive police officers, this elderly crowd, many over 60 and some as old as 95, erupted with unprecedented fury. Gone were the pleas of "return our property." Instead came chants of "down with the government, down with the Communist Party, freedom belongs to the people." As police dragged away elderly protesters, bystanders did not stay silent. They shouted, "The invaders are here," and recorded the violence with their phones. This shift from appealing to the righteous official to calling for the downfall of the regime marks a qualitative change in China's grassroots resistance. People now fully understand that every form of suffering they endure, stolen savings, dead children, seized homes, points back to the same system. 2025, the eve of the CCP's collapse. By late 2025, China presents an apocalyptic, fractured landscape. On one side, the regime's elites fantasize about immortality and harvest human organs for longevity. On the other, ordinary citizens fight desperately for their last penny and final shred of dignity. The CCP's political legitimacy has collapsed completely. When a regime is openly rejected by its once silent majority, and when chokeholds and riot shields can no longer silence tens of millions of voices, the colossus has entered its countdown to collapse. When all paths are blocked, that is when the people begin carving a new path with their own hands.